Do you know a know-it-all? The 12 know-it-all personality traits. Have you ever encountered a know-it-all? Someone who claims to know everything, likes to dominate conversations, and offer unsolicited advice? Dealing with such a person can be quite difficult. Fortunately, the characteristics of a know-it-all are fairly easy to spot. But first, what is a know-it-all? A know-it-all can also be defined as someone who has an opinion about everything. They are very confident about their views, but they don't really consider other people's points of views. They may also come off as overconfident, self-centered, egotistical, and so on, but it all comes down to one thing. They have arrogant behavior because they think they know every topic there is. Examples of know-it-alls. Whether you're at home, in school, in the office, and in other social settings, you're bound to encounter a know-it-all sooner or later. Here are some common examples. A know-it-all could be your elderly aunt who has an opinion about everything. While you're cooking dinner, she would be looking over your shoulder constantly, telling you the right way to prepare the food. If you're having a casual discussion about music, she would complain about how today's artists lack talent and don't know how to compose excellent songs, like in the good old days. In school, the know-it-all could be your history professor who refuses to accept ideas contrary to his own. It could also be your overachieving classmate who never gets tired of raising her hand in class, so much that even your teacher tries to ignore her and calls someone else instead. In the office, the know-it-all could be a coworker whom everyone tries to avoid because of her superior attitude. She loves telling others how to do their jobs, but has trouble following commands or receiving feedback. And yes, know-it-alls could be anybody. It could be you. It could be me. It could be anybody. What are the telltale characteristics of a know-it-all? Let's find out. The known characteristics of a know-it-all. How can you recognize a know-it-all from everyone else? Here are some typical signs or characteristics of know-it-alls. 1. They lack good listening skills. Know-it-alls like to talk and dominate conversations, however, they're not too keen on listening and letting other people speak. They may pause and pretend to be interested in what you have to say, but deep inside, they are actually thinking about how to take over the discussion once again. 2. They love talking about themselves. They tend to brag about their achievements, talents, and experiences. They are the kind of people who often offer unsolicited advice without considering how others would feel. 3. They think they're always right. When confronted by something new, know-it-alls immediately jump to conclusions, even if they know based on limited knowledge. For example, they might assume that there must be only one correct answer to any question. Or they might believe that they already know everything there is to know about a specific topic. 4. They often interrupt others. When they feel threatened by another person's opinions, they try to silence the other person by cutting them as they're speaking. They might also make comments such as "you don't understand," or "I'm sure I told you this before." 5. Know-it-alls love to offer unsolicited advice. Know-it-alls simply love giving their expert advice and opinion, even if the situation doesn't call for it. Imagine having a conversation with friends about your favorite restaurants. The know-it-all will most likely give a lecture about the dangers of eating restaurant food or try to convince everyone why their favorite restaurant is the best. If you ask them for suggestions, they won't hesitate to tell you precisely what you need to change. However, they rarely consider whether their recommendations will benefit you. Instead, they focus more on convincing you to follow their ways. 6. They refuse to admit mistakes. It doesn't matter how many times they make errors. They will insist that they did nothing wrong anyway. Even worse, they sometimes blame others for their failures. If someone points out an error made by the know-it-all, the latter tends to ignore the criticism and instead focuses on proving that she was right all along. 7. They like to show off their intelligence. The know-it-all likes to act smart. That's why they go so much lengths just to prove that they're knowledgeable. They even use big words with the sole purpose of impressing others. In worse cases, know-it-alls will exaggerate information so that nobody would question their statements. 8. Know-it-alls can be condescending. Know-it-alls like to think they are the best, or at least better than most people in many things. A good example would be that classmate who often gets the highest marks but looks down on everybody else. Instead of trying to empathize or help someone struggling in school, the know-it-all would show off superior knowledge and skills instead. Know-it-alls sometimes have an inflated sense of worth and would occasionally use sarcasm and put-downs to belittle others. If you oppose their point of view, they may accuse you of being stupid or ignorant. 9. They are usually argumentative. Know-it-alls have strong feelings about almost anything. And because they want to prove that they are smarter than other people, they often resort to conflict. They like to start arguments, even if the situation doesn't call for a debate. This could be because know-it-alls like having the chance to prove their superior knowledge. Moreover, they always need to have the last word, regardless of how strong or weak their argument is. 10. Know-it-alls are often quick to judge. Know-it-alls usually see their thoughts and opinions as absolute truth. So, when they see or hear a differing opinion, they immediately jump to conclusions. Instead of considering other people's ideas and looking at the bigger picture, know-it-alls are too quick to judge. 11. Know-it-alls tend to be self-centered. Because they often have a superior attitude, know-it-alls don't care much about anyone except themselves. They only pay attention to those whom they deem worthy enough to listen to. 12. Know-it-alls like to be the center of attention. When something is interesting going on around them, know-it-alls will do everything in their power just to get noticed. For instance, they might talk loudly, interrupt conversations, or play loud music. Or maybe they will pretend to look important while walking through crowded places. They may also try to draw attention away from others by making fun of them. Do you know a know-it-all? Did we miss anything from this list? Do you want us to cover a specific topic? If so, comment below and let us know. Or, if you like to receive more content like this, sign up for our free newsletter.